Quilliam, of course, is perhaps the most distinguished naval officer coming from this island. He was the first lieutenant of victory in the Battle of Trafalgar. And when the Royal Navy was looking for a series of names for a class of destroyer whose names were all going to begin with Q, Quilliam seemed quite a good name for the leader of the flotilla. And it was the first time the name had been used. It hasn't been used since. So this makes this particular ship rather special in Manx terms.
They were emergency ships, weren't they?
They were, yes. With the outbreak of war, they needed more destroyers, and they had to cut a few corners in their design and in their size, etc. So they were slightly smaller than their predecessors, although by the Q class they discovered that the earlier ones had been a bit too small. And so by the third emergency flotilla, which was the Q class, they were slightly increased in size, which greatly increased their range. And this meant that the Q class were particularly useful for operations in distant waters like the Indian Ocean and the Pacific.
I was interested in the chat we had beforehand, and you used the phrase that bigger ships are less vulnerable, small ships are more vulnerable.
People tend to forget this because they think, oh, a big ship's a big target. But of course, a single hit on a large ship does not do as much damage proportionately. A small ship like a destroyer, 1,700 tons or so, if you hit it hard, then it is going to be very heavily damaged. Quilliam was lucky during the war, although just as the war was ending, she suffered a collision which put her out of service. But two of her sister ships were sunk, and in fact one of her sister ships, Quentin, was sunk by a single large bomb dropped by a German aircraft in December 1942.
You're no stranger to the Quilliam lecture, are you? You must have a love of Arbory, but also the subject matter of Quilliam.
Well, I've had the great honour of doing the lecture in the past on various subjects, and when I was asked, could I help with the Quilliam destroyer lecture, I jumped at the chance because I love coming to the island. I love the audience, there. I look forward to seeing lots of old friends, and it's a great pleasure to come. And of course, the museum had me over to open the Man at War exhibition, which again was a very great honour. So I feel quite at home in the island now.
And there was a Quilliam connection as well at the Man at War exhibition with the jacket.
Quilliam's jacket, which he wore as First Lieutenant of Victory, is one of the prize exhibits in the exhibition. And given the work done on the jacket, the curatorial work, they've discovered that there are small bloodstains. So it probably was the jacket that Quilliam wore at the Battle of Trafalgar. So therefore, this is a very important link between the island and the Royal Navy past, in the more distant past, and the Royal Navy in the more recent past.
And the other bonus tomorrow on Thursday evening is a totter rum.
Exactly, yes. A traditional naval drink, although the Navy has drunk other things in the past too, and still does.